अरे ये सारे
Okay, we are
आर्टिकल्स.
now live. Hey Siddharth.
हाय हाय.
So let's get started with the today's business break. Starting with really interesting news which came out today. Most likely, the UAE India trade pact is going to be signed today, and this will open up, our imports exports with UAE. Siddharth,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on this?
It's a very good news for Indian exporters and traders basically. So what it does is it makes 80% of the trade from India to UAE duty free, right? So articles like so it's called the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement,
Okay.
right? And so it was we first signed it with Mauritius, and now we're signing it with the UAE,
Okay.
and it's going to be signed today, I think, yeah.
Okay.
And it basically grants duty-free status to a lot of articles and industries like furniture and gems and jewelry and chemicals and cotton exports, and also imports. Like India buys a lot of crude oil from UAE, right? So these exchange of goods will no longer attract the duty that it did, right?
Okay.
And the UAE is a gateway to the Middle East, right? So anybody who wants to enter the Middle Eastern market has to go through the UAE. Now it becomes so much easier for Indians and Indian traders to do that because there are hardly any duties on a few things. Apart from that, everything else is duty free, and plus it is also encouraging international trade, right? Because from the UAE, from Dubai, Dubai is a transit port, right? So there's a lot of re-export that happens from Dubai. So Indians can actually export a lot of their goods to Europe and mid Asia, mid Asian countries, and to North African countries through Dubai, right? And before that attracted a lot of duties, but now not the case anymore. So it gives a fairly comprehensive advantage to Indian exporters when they're competing with the others in the Dubai market. So yeah, all in all, a pretty good deal for the Indians
I wonder
and
the
the.
impact it will have on the oil prices, or will it stabilize India's oil prices more because it's fucked up? Like oil.
No, no, I don't think so because crude oil just hit $100 again.
Right. So this very nicely moves us to our next topic, which
Yeah.
is crude oil has recently, like the entire inflation. A lot of economies in the world are in inflation, and crude oil is just adding on to it.
Yeah.
So can you take us through this?
So yeah, this it happened way before, right? The $100 market crossed. I think in it happened the first time in 24. It has happened for the first time since 2014,
Right.
right? And because it has crossed $100, it is the Brent crude we're talking about. A lot of commodities and their prices are based off crude oil prices, right?
Of course. Yeah.
So this is going to create a massive impact on commodities market, especially oil and gas and plastics and a lot of these derivative products that come from crude oil. So that is going to be a major issue, and like I said, like पेट्रोल कहीं सस्ता नहीं होने वाला है, मतलब और बढ़ने ही वाला है. बिकॉज अभी चुनाव है तो अभी नहीं बढ़ा रहे हैं वो लोग, बट उसके बाद इट इज it's just natural that it's going to happen, and uh,
I don't know.
it's
This is it's really you know weird right now in the sense that the oil rates in India are already so high,
yeah.
and they have not raised the oil rates for almost 100 days, if I'm not wrong. And I don't know one next once the election is over and they start raising the oil rates.
Yeah.
I don't know. It'll touch 150, I guess, and That's just sad because this is something which, look, of course, there's this entire thought process that okay, inflation is going to consistently be there and all that, but of course, oil rates in India have not kept up with inflation. It's been much higher percentages, and this government, especially, this is, if you would call me, one of the biggest failures. Not being able to control this aspect of it, not being able to figure out other sources of oil in India itself, figure out some alternatives. I think one of the reasons why they are heavily pushing electric vehicles is also this: they want to reduce dependency on oil. And I also feel few years, last few years when the oil rates had dropped off,
Hmm.
they had not reduced their rates. The idea or the thought process which I had was they're not reducing the rate because they want to keep the oil rate stable.
Right.
But that's not what they've done. Like as oil rates have gone up, the cushion which they've built, right? They've just maintained that cushion, and they've, as it has increased it. And I don't know, like this really brings to question the economists who are really driving this, and it's very very strange because we're such an oil dependent country, and the amount of
Hmm.
money we end up paying in taxes through oil is just so huge. So I was actually doing this math the other day, right? Like what is the percentage of my actual wealth which goes into tax?
Right.
And when you start doing the math, and when you say come to your car and you start looking at the oil rates and all, and when you see that a major chunk of that percentage is just government taxes, and oil is
Hmm.
of course not under GST, it's really sad. And I hope it doesn't hit 150,
No,
200
but
rupees.
this is basically because of the tensions between Russia and Ukraine, because Russia is one of the major producers of oil.
I understand that, but the thing is, India has a good relationship with Russia. It shouldn't really affect it. India has a
No,
very good
but
relationship with
this,
Russia.
like, because this is a global phenomena, they can't really help, right? This is gonna happen.
So this is the same story which they. So that's what I'm trying to say, right? The cushion which was getting built, it should have
Huh.
offset this increases.
Exactly. And yeah, they did build a cushion, right? They were building
Exactly.
reserves when oil was like 50,
Very
60
cheap.
dollars. What happened to
Yeah.
that?
Exactly. So it's
कोई
just
आरटीआई फाइल करो यार पूछो उसका क्या हुआ
it'll end up
Okay.
falling under the Reliance. Yeah, I mean it'll end up falling under the Reliance thing, and it'll get over from there. But let's
Cool.
see. This will be very very interesting to watch how this goes. I really hope oil price doesn't increase more than this, because above this it becomes very very hard. Even now I feel the pinch, and I don't use oil every day. I probably go and meet customers once or twice a week, and uh, I don't know, like for the Uber and Ola drivers, for example, who do it on a daily basis, for the trucks who do it on a daily basis, they must be hit so hard.
Yeah, yeah. The transport industry has gone to the dogs.
So, and the worst part is our Indian buyers and sellers, these Indian traders, they squeeze these truckers and they squeeze these transport guys.
Yeah, yeah, they squeeze them dry, dude. Yeah.
Like
And
they not
now
even have enough
because
money to pay, enough for food and all that. I'm quite sure.
exactly. And because there's this push on EV, right? People are not realizing कि EV trucks
It's not
feasible
possible.
होने में बहुत time है अभी. It's
No, it's not
firstly.
possible. You know this. Like physics, may it doesn't. It's not possible.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
what happens is to pull a capacity of
Mm-hmm.
that weight, the battery
Mm-hmm.
size which you'll need,
Uh-huh.
the weight of the battery will become like 40-50% of the total cargo weight.
Oh, I
This
didn't know
this is
this.
actually a major issue of why. Sorry,
So
excuse me. So
you're saying EV trucks are not a possibility
no, 100%.
scientifically. Okay.
Scientifically, it's very very hard because the unless battery density shoots up like crazy, which is not going to happen for another 20, 30 years, 50 years
Right.
even.
Mm-hmm.
When I say shoots up like crazy, I'm not talking about 10-20% increments of that. I'm talking about it becomes 5-10 times more efficient.
Yeah, you're
You're
talking about
talking,
10x at least.
yeah. So I'm talking about getting into carbon batteries and all that, and that is
Yeah.
going to take a lot of time. It will happen, but as of now, with lithium-ion batteries, it's not possible. It's physically not possible. One of the reasons why Tesla is not able to release the Tesla Semi,
Uh-huh.
their truck, is because of this.
Okay. So you're
They have
saying the
everything
battery
sorted.
load, so the battery capacity is not enough to pull the load from the trucks.
To to pull the load of, you know, tens and hundreds of tons which trucks carry,
Mm-hmm.
they will need a battery which is almost 30-40% of the total weight.
Oh, okay.
So that's not the case with engines, right? With an engine,
Ah,
it's a relatively small, and
right, right, right.
even in this case, the electric motor is very small. The
Okay.
battery weight is a
The
lot.
battery weight is a lot. Okay.
So I don't know what's going to happen to trucks and all that. I feel very. This is a really sad thing. A good solution for this, and I will try to link a particular YouTube channel in the description. His name is Adam something,
Uh-huh. Okay.
and he gave a very nice breakdown of one of the best solutions if you really want to use electricity for cargo and all that is you really got to invest in trains.
Right. Electric
And
trains.
yeah, and the train infrastructure, because what happens is trains are not carrying battery, they're actually, the electric trains are connected, they're going through, you know how electric trains work, right? There's a cable which is connecting them.
Right, right.
So the cable, you know, can actually help this out, and I think trains are very cheap and they can help out. But this is a really grim reality if, you know, petrol prices keep increasing, because uh, look, the government is not using the cushion which they built, and this is what upsets me the most. And
Right.
like, as far as you know, I keep telling that, look, I of course come off as a BJP supporter. I don't give a fuck about who's ruling us.
Mm-hmm.
I don't give a fuck about who the, you know, party is. I What bothers me is what affects me on a day-to-day basis. I don't care who it is. I will call them out. So what affects me on a day-to-day basis is this. This actually affects me on a day-to-day basis. My petrol rates go up, my costs go up, my taxi cab costs go up. So
Mm-hmm.
I really am worried about this, and this will only go up because I think Russia is gonna fuck around with Ukraine for a lot longer. They'll not do anything, but they'll fuck around. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like obviously.
like this is classic passive aggressive, you know, diva mode of Putin.
Yeah. Agreed, agreed.
So let's see. I hope, you know, it gets better, but I have my hopes low. Any
Cool.
parting words for this, Siddharth?
No, no. I think, yeah. I mean, if it works out well and good, but $100 crude oil not sustainable. Like there's something needs to be done here.
Exactly.
Let's see what happens. All right,
Done.
moving on.
Moving on to the next story, guys. This is something really, really exciting. And I'm glad something like this is happening. You have Spotify acquiring two more companies to become a podcasting juggernaut. So, what do I mean by this? So, now in India, podcasting is still not that high. I mean, people rely on YouTube itself to watch movies, to listen to podcasts, and all that. But
Right.
podcasting is a huge business. It's going to grow even in India. In fact, one of our goals at One Work is, you know, to try to build a podcast network.
Mm-hmm.
And in this effort, what Spotify has acquired is a data analytics and an advertising platform in
Okay.
podcasts. So
Oh, so
just
these companies do data analytics and in only in the podcast industry.
yeah, they do podcast data analysis and podcast advertising and placements of what do you call? Uh, so Podsites and Chartable, these are two very good brands, and I'm
Okay.
sure Spotify has given, you know, a good amount of money for both of them. But
Right.
basically, what this will do is, imagine I have a podcast, right? I can, number one, get a lot of insights
Mm-hmm.
into how well the advertising is working. So, and
Right.
I'll explain how this adds value. So, first is Podsites is the first company they acquired, and this will give them insights into how well the advertising is working. So, just keep that in mind, and I'll tell you how it, you know, closes the loop. And the
Cool.
second company they acquired is Chartable, Chartable. So,
Okay.
Chartable also is in the similar space where it's helping publishers try to make most of their podcast
Okay.
advertising. So now, why am I telling you all these things? I'll just quickly share my screen so I can, you know, explain this particular concept better. So you got to understand that one of the main reasons
Uh-huh.
why people put a lot of money. So I'll just quickly share my screen. This is just this is just my thought process, and if I were in Spotify, how I would be thinking, and of course, so that you can add, if you have any idea.
Okay.
But basically, why do people go to YouTube or Google to advertise, or even Facebook for that matter? Now, apart
Everyone's
from
there.
one is they have the entire audience. That's absolutely right.
Right.
The second part is it's extremely data and analytics driven.
Right.
So what do I mean by this? Say I give one of these platforms some money, right? They will actually tell you how many people you have reached,
Right.
how many clicks you've got, right? How many conversions have you got? All this information.
Right.
Unlike, say, a television or some other media platform or a media company, when you give them money, it's a question mark. You're not sure what's happening. You just hope for the best. So what
Oh,
happens
yeah.
is,
So the tangibility of marketing spends is what you're talking about, right?
yeah. So the tangibility of marketing spends, not just tangibility, conversion tracking, all these
Ah,
things really help out. Okay.
right. And
Now,
traditional media does not offer all of that.
traditional media doesn't offer it. No media offers it.
Huh.
Now, if I am trying to build another media business or a media platform, so in this case, Spotify wants to become a media platform, right?
Yeah.
Now, Spotify, if you have free Spotify, you can do a lot of ads,
Yep.
right? So in between the music songs, you have ads right now. Now everyone knows that Spotify wants to, become like the ultimate place for anything you listen to.
Yeah, all audio.
All audio, exactly. So now, what have they done? They have done a major push into podcasts.
Right. They acquired Joe Rogan and all of that.
Exactly. They acquired Joe Rogan, they've acquired a lot of other podcast players, they've acquired Anchor.fm. Now, with Spotify, for the music, a music song is 3 to 5 minutes long. Between songs, placing ads was very easy. They'll be like, okay, we'll show your songs in between 10,000 listens. We'll show your ad like 500 times. And this is what we'll charge. And this is the audience and all that. The problem with podcasts is it's fucking 30 minutes to 200 minutes long.
Right.
Probably more. Joe Rogan ka ek 4 hours ka hai, for example.
Yep.
So now you'll be like, how the hell do you place ads in between?
Huh.
Traditionally, podcast guys would take sponsorships.
Right.
Based on their average listens, they would tell ki, okay, I'll charge you this much, and sponsors would take. And every 15-20 minutes or so, there would be a small 30-second, 1 minute, sponsor feature.
Right.
Problem with this was very much operating like a traditional media.
Right.
So you are not sure how many people it is reaching, you're not sure how many listens it's actually got, you're not sure about all those data, different analytics and data. So this, what Spotify has acquired, these two companies, what they allow publishers to do is they work in collaboration with podcast publishers and advertisers, ads, Spotify, podcast publisher. They build this entire loop and make everyone in the funnel aware of all analytics.
Oh, okay.
So exactly they'll be able to tell advertisers कि अगर आप इतना खर्चा करोगे तो आपको इतना visibility मिलेगा, इतने clicks मिल सकते हैं, all that bullshit.
So they are bringing transparency to all stakeholders in the
Exactly.
audio.
So this is, they're just taking a, and this is not some new strategy. They're just taking a page from the Google's playbook. Google Ads became so huge when they paired it with Google Ads plus Google Analytics pair is like one of the best thing which happened to Google, because that really just skyrocketed their business because a lot of marketers wanted to spend money there. Similarly, what they are doing with what Spotify is doing is, for the format of listening or audio, they have acquired the publishers. They have a lot of advertisers already. Now they have the analytics layer. So they have built an engine of consistent ad revenue right now, and I love it. Because why do I love it? Because I think you have another player. Spotify is a Swedish company. They do have good amount of respect for privacy and all that, and I think them growing bigger and getting better is a very good thing for the world as a whole. So I'm really excited about this, And no, this just, I think Spotify has consistently taken good steps. For instance, some of the things which Spotify has done is acquire some of the best podcasts, give Joe Rogan. They actually didn't censor and silence Joe Rogan. That was one of the biggest
Yeah.
things they did. And all they had to do was wait out, a lot of these idiot old media guys,
Yep.
because
Yep.
they knew that those guys would just fall, and they waited out, and all those viewers are now Spotify's viewers. So this is just another, piece on the cake, where it's just getting better and better. But this is why this acquisition is so exciting, so that.
I love it. I love it that I love it also because Spotify is a Scandinavian company, right?
Exactly.
And we all need Scandinavian dominance in our world. If like it is so important because these guys, their values reflect true liberal values, like
Yes.
in the current context. And I you see that in the way Spotify defended Joe Rogan. You see that in the way Spotify does not censor its creators. You
Yeah.
see that in the way Spotify gives revenue to their creators. So yeah, it's a crazy thing. And if Spotify does become the next YouTube for audio, nothing like it. It's just better for creators.
Exactly. So this was, I mean, I love it. This was again a very brief explanation based on my understanding of the business. Of course, the podcast business is a lot deeper and a lot wider, but
Yep.
this just gives you a little bit of clarity and a little bit of transparency of how this deal works and why Spotify is acquiring these companies. Spotify does have its own analytics. The reason they're acquiring these companies is, one is they have a tech layer. Maybe Spotify wants some features from that. But second, a lot of these companies are working with some existing big podcast publishers. So
Okay.
Spotify doesn't need to hire a sales team to go acquire these podcast publishers again.
Oh, right. Nice.
So love this. I I honestly want to see if we can do a breakdown on Spotify, so that, because
Yeah, yeah. Actually,
it
let's do
beat out
that.
some of the biggest juggernauts to take over the music space, and it's transformed music the way we know it. But yeah, let's try to do it in a future episode. So
Yep.
moving on to our next story, which is this
Nepal
is
has
something very,
become
very, very interesting. Go ahead, Siddharth.
Yeah, so Nepal has become the first country after India, of course, to accept UPI as a payment platform for their
Yes,
internal use, and that is insanely exciting. And like because you need to understand that, see, India is a leader when it comes to developing nations, right?
right.
We are the first among equals in developing nations, and we as a country we've developed this foolproof payments and remittances mechanism, right, which is the unified payments interface. you know and uh, because this interface is so smooth and easy to use, and it has been implemented in a country like India, which has its own challenges when it comes to internet connectivity, electricity, all of these. uh, we as a country have progressed, have taken a leap into the digital era because of UPI. I think one of the core reasons India has become a digital economy or will become a digital economy is the UPI, is the Aadhaar, is this layer of identity that we've created online, which is the DigiLocker, right? All these things combined have pushed us into this digital realm. And now, if Nepal as a country is accepting it, it's just insane for them, because imagine the kind of benefits UPI can bring into a country like Nepal, with limited access to roads, limited connectivity of electricity, right? It's a mountain region, like there's hardly any connectivity all across the nation. But if there is UPI, they can send and receive payments throughout the country or internationally as well. It opens up insane number of doors for people in Nepal. And if the same thing can be replicated across developing nations, then firstly, it can help a lot of these developing nations bring a major chunk of their population out of the poverty line, like we did in our country. And secondly, it can leapfrog these guys into the digital era, uh, which they might not have been able to do without a payment and P2P, remittance layer. And thirdly, it's just easier to implement something that has been developed already, right? And Indians have developed UPI with a lot of trial and error, with a lot of conditions and terms, because India is such a diverse country with its own set of problems, and most of these problems are found commonly in a lot of developing nations. So inherently, it is easier to just adapt and implement the UPI rather than develop their own payment system for all these developing nations, because it requires a lot of resources, it requires a lot of talent, it requires a lot of time, and we all know that these most developing nations don't have any of the three, let alone one. So I think it's a great step, right? And if it can be implemented across developing nations or poor nations, nothing like it. And I think we should welcome this step. I'm pretty excited. Nikhil, I think we've lost Nikhil. So yeah, this is hello.
Hey, yeah, sorry, I got disconnected. But yeah, uh, this was really interesting, and of course, this just boards, as you rightly pointed out, कि अपन लोग का fintech अलग level पे है.
Ah, exactly. Or nobody comes close to us when it comes to fintech and problem solving, and I think we're going to see that in the coming decade. That
Yeah,
it like you know, Freshworks का जो founder है Girish, he I just read an article that in which he quoted that Indians are going to launch products in the next decade, and these are going to be global products. And I think
correct.
he's right. Like there's nobody that solves problems like we Indians do, because we need to do it at scale. We need to do it dirt cheap, and we need to make sure it reaches everybody. Now, nobody has these unique set of problems as a country.
And also, nobody has access to these many smart engineers. Sorry to say
Exactly.
this, but
You
fuck
need
you,
you need
America.
you need problems and you need the solution, right? We have both. So I
Yeah.
think, yeah, India is going to lead the next decade or two. Yeah.
So
Really
moving
excited
on
about this.
to our last story, guys. Really looking forward to this. So crypto tax has turned out to be a blessing in disguise for a lot of existing exchanges like WazirX.
Yep. And this is coming from the horse's mouth himself, from the
Yep.
founder of Azirex,
Yep.
right? And yeah, the reason he says this is because after crypto got taxed,
Yeah.
people got this assumption that it is now legit in India, right? And because of that, he says that we have seen an insane jump in the number of registrations that we've got
Yep.
for new account registrations, right?
Yep.
And generally, he sees that the daily signups have increased almost 30%,
Exactly.
right?
Dude, and
And
if you remember, Siddharth, we were reacting to the budget live, and this was one of the things. The moment
yep,
they announced the tax, I mean, we didn't look at the tax and we didn't look at the tax rate. I was like, fuck, did India just legitimize crypto?
crypto, yep. And yeah, I
Because
think he did because
they did, yeah. And although, not only this tax, yesterday there were talks about them adding 18% GST. But this just gives you a perspective to think that, okay, if they're adding GST and then they're adding this tax and then they're adding the TDS tax,
Mhm.
it's it's India saying, yeah, man, do crypto. Pay us a big chunk of tax, but do crypto.
Yeah, but do crypto exactly. And like the average new client, right?
Uh huh.
This is Nishal Shetty speaking. He's like the average new client puts about 30 to 40,000 rupees. That's or almost $400 to $500 in their trading account.
Yep.
Now that is not a small amount when you consider India as a country, right? It's
Exactly.
insane that every new client is putting in $500. That is next level shit if you zoom out and think about it. I
Yep.
don't think everybody does that in stock markets also, but they're doing it here. So yeah, I think the future is bright when it comes to crypto in India at least.
I do believe. that by adding such huge tax, India may have deterred few investors, but you also have to understand a lot of countries are only going to take this route. What they're going to
Exactly.
do is they are going to not delegitimize it; they're going to heavily tax it,
Yep.
and and I think it's a win-win in the sense that because it's such a volatile thing which they can't control, the governments may have taken the approach, and I should say the IAS officers or the IPS, the IAS officers behind giving Nirmala Sitaraman the strategy were really smart. They're like, look, we even if we delegitimize it, it's impossible for us to track. Let's
Exactly.
legitimize it and let's figure out how to tax it. And I mean, this is an unfair comparison, and I know I'm going to offend a lot of people, but a lot of people have been saying this about our oldest profession that legitimize it and tax it,
Yeah.
which is prostitution. The
Yep.
reason is because of this, right? This is like, and this is
So
one of the reasons why it's not taxed and why it's not legitimized. Prostitution has not been legitimized yet, is because the moment you do it, moment you tax it, you're giving a heads up that yeah, you can do it, guys,
yeah.
and that
And we are not ready as a nation to accept that we'll allow prostitution in our country.
right.
It's
But
just
I'm
it's just the
glad.
optics are too fucked up.
But I'm glad that crypto tax this is happening. Although there is a warning note here, and I want to tell this to everyone that look, Nirmala Sitaraman has specifically said this. Specifically, she said this that don't assume that crypto is completely legitimized. We
Yep.
may tell specific currencies are not. And you
Yep.
need to be very careful. And I hope WazirX has a very strong legal lobby. I don't know what's the background of the founders. We'll try to find that out probably in a future video. But I hope they have a very strong legal lobby because that will be the only way where they'll be able to push this. I also hope that they have the backing of people like Dream 11 and all that, where basically gambling got legalized to a
Yeah.
certain extent.
But dude,
So
Dream 11 is a different scene altogether, dude.
so
I
no, the thing is that that's the kind of lobby which you will require to actually get this
ड्रीम 11
legitimized.
का जो फाउंडर है ना, हर्ष जैन,
Uh-huh.
just Google the guy. I'm not even kidding. He's so well connected. He's considered Mukesh Ambani's second son. His
Wow.
dad was considered Dhirubhai Ambani's third son.
Wow. Very nice.
And Harsh Jain's Bade Papa is the uh, Solicitor General of India, additional Solicitor General of India. So
So
that is
yeah.
some, yeah.
I want to check WazirX के जो investors है या जो founders है उनका क्या background है because
I
अगर
also
ऐसा
read this article recently, Abhi Subhay, I think, that the founders and the CEO and the CEO are stepping down from active management. They're going to
where
pursue different things in WazirX.
oh wow, that's
Yeah,
surprising.
so
Okay.
The CEO is going to launch a gaming thing, something, because he's passionate about that, and the CEO is still, I don't know, looking at
Okay.
what to do. But yeah,
Okay,
but
that's fine.
overall, I think this is a good thing. Like, we see positive
By
signs
the
in the
way,
crypto market.
I hope, and there's another part here. I had a very close friend who worked in a gambling company,
Right.
and he was breaking down some numbers for me. He was telling me the amount of numbers and amount of gambling which happens and all that stuff. And I hope government takes a similar route even for gambling and legalizes it, because the tax revenue which it will draw will be huge. Hopefully
Exactly.
that will offset some of that petrol rise rates, but but I hope they do because I don't think. Look, it's if there are certain activities, especially like gambling, which are gonna happen no matter what. Like I know, I have met people who run their entire homes on just gambling,
Yeah, yeah.
and
And that's the stigma is only in India, like
yeah.
abroad,
So
like
Bet 365 and all, you have professional gamblers and all, boss. They use data
exactly.
analytics. They have AI and all who are trying to predict games, and I love it, and I love that aspect of it. And when you legalize it, okay, of course, not prostitution, but gambling specifically, I think it should be legalized. Uh, because I think it opens up a lot more tax revenue for the government. Also, when you legalize it, right, you can educate people against it as well
Right.
instead of criminalizing it.
Exactly. Yep.
So this route which I've taken with crypto, I hope it moves to some other sort of aspects. I also hope it moves to some other aspects like lobbying, for example, should get legalized in India because हम सबको पता है होता है ये बकचोदी.
So I don't know, dude. I think lobbying is, I don't know, it's just.
It's fucked up, I know, but it
Uh,
happens. So might as well legalize it, make it a real form of business, and tax it, boss.
yep, yep.
And when you tax it, what also happens is you get some sort of traceability, Siddharth. You have to
Yep, yep.
understand that.
Yeah, yeah. Very, very important. That is, I think that is more important than the tax revenues or whatever we're considering. Because
Yeah,
traceability से आपको actually पता चलेगा कि हो क्या रहा है यार. है ना?
exactly. So right,
Uh,
so that's my thought process. I'm really glad with this news. But this was all for today's business break, guys.
yep.
Thank you so much for tuning in. See you
Yep.
all tomorrow. Bye,
Tomorrow.
guys.
Bye.